Cameroon's consistently swelling debt burden has been raising eyebrows in several quarters in recent months. And while critics question the rationale behind the rather disturbing trend, leaked media reports reveal that the managing directors of several state-owned corporations, for which some of these loans are contracted in the first place, have been silently pocketing astronomical amounts of money in the name of monthly salaries. Elsewhere, a survey conducted by the Yaoundé-based Nkafu Policy Institute, a think tank launched at the Foretia Foundation, reveals that Cameroon is currently headed in the wrong direction, with the current government incapable of finding solutions towards arresting the situation. Welcome to another Tough Talking installment. We will be with you in a moment. Elie Smith is here. Elie, welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here again.
We actually disappointed some of our viewers with another, well, unwanted break.
Exactly. Anyway, it happened and we are here again to continue.
Thanks very much. This week, and this is one of the issues claiming the headlines across Cameroon, Youth and Civic Education Minister Mununa Fotso on July the 28th in a circular proscribed the usage of the terms zone anglophone or region anglophone. These all mean anglophone zones or anglophone regions in his ministerial department. Elie Smith, what could lie beneath the proscription?
First of all, I never knew someone like that existed. So I think sometimes people...
Someone like
the
Minister Mununa Fotso?
I honestly, I must confess, I did not know he ever existed, someone like that. So we have a plethora of ministers. And now I also think that
65.
Over 65 for a country that is really neck deep in depth. I think the problem with him is perhaps was just seeking notice. If he doesn't want people to call it zone anglophone, what does he want those zones to
According
be called?
to the July 28th circular addressed to central and external officials of that ministerial department, Mununa Fotso says the appellation for Cameroon's two English-speaking regions has not changed. It remains the Northwest region and the Southwest region. I
understand what he's trying to say. The problem he has is that he feels that by calling zone anglophone, they are giving the zone an entity. But he cannot, there is something that we cannot refuse. And let me bring it back, because sometimes when you say it here, people start running their mouth and saying that people are calling for secession. No. History is one thing you cannot change. This country is a creation of the Europeans. Cameroon never existed. The entities that existed prior to Cameroon was, let's say, Adamawa Empire, the Kanuri Empire, the Sokoto empires that overlap West Africa. And people want to lie to us sometimes. They talk about the Fumban, whatever. The reality is that the Cameroon is a creation of the European. The people who created Cameroon are the Germans. And when the Germans lost and the British and the French took over, there is a territorial boundary of two states, two countries, for Christ's sake, recognized internationally. It was in 1919, I think it is a Simon-Littleton agreement which partitioned those two entities. Now, when you hear an individual, like the gentleman you just gave his name, coming up and Minister Mununa, good, Minister Mununa, when you have Minister Mununa, good, now I know somebody exists like that, Mununa coming up and proscribing people not to call a zone anglophone zone, simply means that he wants to deny the existence of that country called West Cameroon. There is a country, and in 1961, for Christ's sake...
Which is still long after its independence? Because it's not independent, I mean, even if it exists on paper.
It is not yet independent simply, but no, it got an independence and decided to amalgamate with another independent country called Republic of Cameroon.
That merger is called La République du Cameroon.
La République du Cameroon. And it is history. Saying it doesn't mean that we are finding anything. I just think Mr. Monono should try to look for other things which is more... Mununa Fotso should look for something more serious to talk about. And carrying out those types is tantamount to a kind of obstruction of press freedom or freedom of speech. People have their right to say whatever thing they wish to say without having people dictating what they have to say.
And so I've heard a couple of people say the minister probably had more to do with the ink in his pen the issue is secular, which the likes of Elie Smith will not stop criticizing. Kejan Henry, for several, welcome first of all, please.
Oh, thanks so much. Good morning.
For several days, it's been spreading like dry season bushfire on social media platforms, and I'm referring to a video featuring former minister in charge of missions at the presidency and current Sonara board chairperson, John Ebongole. He actually held a placard at TB Joshua's Synagogue of All Nations in Nigeria, indicating he is a victim of mental disorder. You've seen the video, Henry?
Yes, I watched that video on Sunday, and I was amazed when I saw a senior statesman of Cameroon. There is nothing wrong in going to the church, but there is something wrong if we go to the church so that they cast out demons from us. Whether he's, because I saw what he carried and it's written John Ebongole, and I saw his face in the Synagogue Church of All Nations, and I saw TB Joshua laying hands on him and, hypnotizing him and trying to cast out.
Apparently, he actually crashed on the floor.
He crashed, what I would call probably, because there you say they cast out demons. But my only worry is that why will Ebongole move to Nigeria for that? Anyway, you can seek your treatment from any part of the world.
Does he deserve all of the mockery?
Now,
Henry, I've been looking at the social media platforms. He's become a target of ridicule.
You are extremely correct. You are extremely correct, Divine.
Does he merit all of that?
Does he merit all of that? I say no. For somebody who is respected in our society, somebody who is the current board or sitting board chair of the National Oil Refinery Corporation, it's a disgrace to the image of this nation.
A disgrace if you go to seek for medical assistance when you're not
If you go to seek for medical assistance, many of our top scribes have gone out of the country for medical assistance. Well, if he could go for prayers, which I suppose he did, but we're asking the question, could he not go somewhere else, because this is a mental problem? Have they gone, because they carried him to the mental department of the Synagogue Church of All Nations, because you have different departments.
Yes.
Those with cancer, those with mental problems, HIV,
yes.
They have their own compartment. So his own compartment was the compartment or department of mental problems.
Okay.
Now, if they are tried in mainstream hospital, in decent hospital, I suppose, across the world.
On our screens, Henry, and I'm sorry to interrupt
yes.
you, it's Charles Metou, the former
general manager
of Sonara.
Good.
And alongside John Ebongole, they've been accused of, embezzling money at Sonara to the tune of 60 billion francs. As we actually speak, Charles Metou, whom you saw previously in the images, is behind bars. He was convicted in October 2015 and sentenced to 15 years in prison. So some say that, John Ebongole's outing at the Synagogue of All Nations could be a trick and a plot to have the lawsuit against him dropped?
Yes, many are saying the same thing. But that might not spare him, because if you cannot pretend as a madman, otherwise he should pretend as a madman throughout his life and stay at home, and which is now time for the board to sit and then push him out, because I suppose, to hold very high profile function in the country, you need to be mentally sane. I mean, the Constitution says that, and even the President of the Republic, the day he becomes incapacitated, or the day it is averred by medical doctors that he can no more work, because from what we see, or we saw, or what we are seeing, it means that Ebongole can no more work. And so why end, emolument or advantages, in Sonara, whereas he was supposed to leave his place for some other person. And I suppose the presidency has seen, because like you said, it is a disgrace for the nation.
Elie Smith, it's time for him to call it quits and resign from the chairmanship of the National Oil Refinery, which is strategic for Cameroon's growth.
Yes, because he's sick, and I beg to differ with Divine. He's not the first statesman. With Henry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we know.
Frederick Chiluba, the former president of the Zambia, went there. There are a number of dignitaries. Jerry John Rawlings has been there. I think John Fundi also went there once, right? So there's nothing. Petit P has been there. There's nothing bad in that. I think that, Henry, if he's sick, I think a man like Ebongole is a Christian. And I think if you have seen him go to TB Joshua, it means that they have exhausted all avenue of classic medical treatment. Hence, he has opted to go there. And I think Cameroonians should at least sometimes have a kind of, I know nobody likes this very corrupt government.
So he's a sympathy
exactly, yes. But I have a lot of, because when I saw him, I felt very bad because he has this mental disorder. I don't think he's a kind of ruse that he doesn't want to go to Kondengi. Because first of all, he's an Anglophone. I would have wanted to have an Anglophone as a general manager of Sonara, for Christ's sake. He has a honorary position as the chairman of the board of directors. It's not a good thing. I am in defense of John Ebongole because I think that he's sick. He has not made up what he's doing, and I don't think he's the first person in the first place, and Cameroonians should learn to have a kind of sympathy. All those messages, I understand people hate Paul Biya, they hate this corrupt regime that has ruined this country, and everybody that is part and parcel of this filthy, corrupt government, everybody hates it, but we should spare Mr. Ebongole. He's really sick, honestly speaking.
So at about 15 minutes after the hour, let's take a short break, and when we come back, remember we have a couple of topics lined up for discussion today. We will go to the CAFU Policy Institute in Yaoundé to talk about a survey which indicates that Cameroon is headed in the wrong direction. Gina Leke will be here at about the half hour with our trending. It's quite interesting because we hear that the President of the Republic is sending a convoy, or rather emissaries, 3 in number, to explain Cameroon's position regarding the Anglophone crisis to the American people. But when we come back straight on, we'll be looking at how much do some of the managing directors of some state-owned corporations in Cameroon earn. Let's take a break and we'll be back in a moment. And so the managing directors of various state-owned corporations, you may want to abbreviate that to be SOCs across Cameroon, have been engulfed in discomfort following recent media revelations indicating that some of them earn between 7 million CFA francs to 30 million CFA francs per month. And that is minus allowances, including money for electricity, telephone, internet, water bills, and lodging, among others. The shocking disclosure, Kejan Henry, is contained in a July 24 delivery of the little-known newspaper. It is called La Tribune de l'Est Economie.
Yes, it's little known, but probably it's little known, like you put it very rightly, but it's known. And we find
little known because it's not as popular
as Le Messager, the Guardian Post, or whatever, or the School. Yes, but that was a good thing for La Tribune de l'Est, and we say congratulations. Initially, these things have been published by some media outfit some time ago, but these things came to pass.
L'Economie actually had a scoop on this on the 17th of February 2017.
But it passed like a win. It passed like a win. And at this time, it has become too popular because one of those indicted has reacted. And so sometimes it's always good to keep quiet. Don't react because some of those things. But we understand the person at the forefront of it all is the director of the CMPS, that is the National Social Insurance Fund, who is threatening not only court action but death until these guys produce a report which indicates or which shows what he earns as, salary or overall benefit as the director of CMPS.
That's where the tricky thing comes in, Elie Smith. If you want to refute a claim like this, if you come out to make a pronouncement, well, he's threatening lawsuit and all sorts of legal actions against the public self, like Tribune de l'Est. If you come out to refute allegations like these, you should be able to at least provide contrary or contradictory information. Exactly. If you come out with threats and let it go, everybody thinks you're guilty.
Exactly. That's what Kejang is saying, because since he decided to threaten the publisher, Mr. Chulio, and he never knew that the guy is very bold, and now he has even used 2 mediums. He has used the standard newspaper, print newspaper. He has also gone on social media. If you go on WhatsApp, you have all the detailed messages of how the emolument that the director of the National Social Insurance Fund is gaining. But to the discharge of this man is a system which is like that. We have a corrupt regime that has been in power for 34 long years, and that has put at the helm of affairs people who think that they can do everything with impunity and nothing comes out. And it's very good now that we have this newspaper that has decided to act like a kind of whistleblower. And I think the reaction of the director is that he wanted that thing to go not to go solo, but the mistake he did was to threaten him. What he would have done was that, and I think he has very bad communication advisors. They would have told him, all right, this is the reality. He organized a press conference and said it rather than resorting to the means that he's using.
And Elie Smith, for your information and the information of our viewers, is not only the managing director of CNPS, that's the National Social Insurance Fund. The officials at Canal, that's Canal Telecommunications, have also issued a refutal of the claims. Because Henry, these amount 7 million to 30 million francs, excluding diverse allowances for lodging, telephone, internet, electricity, water bills, and so on.
Fuel and entertainment.
It's scandalous because in some cases when you do the arithmetic correct, some of them earn 45 million CFA francs every month.
And talking about the arithmetic divine, if you earn 45 million CFA francs, somebody did a detailed arithmetic to say that 45 million divided by 100, it will tell you that it will give you approximately 450 Cameroonians to be paid. And at the point in time, we are struggling to restructure the economy when people don't have money to lift Cameroonians out of poverty. If you take, for example, if the publication is correct, which I believe because nobody even audits the National Hydrocarbons Corporation, the SNH, which has the highest amount of emolument earned. I'm talking about Adolphe Moudiki, who is, I suppose, not audited, who voted during the French election, which means he's a Frenchman. We should start asking questions because he's not the only person. Many of them line up even in our own house. Some people voted during the French election, which means they are French nationals.
In our own house, do you mean?
I'm talking in our own group. And of course, you know, it's not a hidden story. And Nanib Rabi Binji voted during the French election. But I'm not saying that he is a director of that caliber. I just want to say that there are those who claim they are Cameroonians, and whereas they have foreign nationalities, and to be more precise, French nationalities, and draining our resources. You understand what I mean? Now, if with all this emolument, pyramidal emolument, and then we are talking about restructuring the economy, going to borrow every day, just curtail that amount, for 1 month, and you see what will enter into our national treasury.
Elie Smith, we actually talking about a country where basic minimum wages are around 30,000 francs. I'm not sure I'm getting that figure correct. But then how do you explain that the general manager of a state-owned corporation like Cameroon Airlines Corporation, which posts a monthly deficit of 1.5 billion CFA francs before the implementation of the Boeing consulting plan, can afford to pay its GM 13 million CFA francs every month in salary? Raw salary?
Yes, once again, I'll act like a devil's advocate. It is not the fault of the director of Cameroon Airlines that he's been paid 13 million francs. I think in normal government, I think Kejang said something, if these corporations were audited and people are conscious, patriotic, they would have understood that, look, this is a loss-making venture. We don't deserve to give somebody a lump sum of 13 million CFA francs every month. Like when you come to the National Social Security, you have a number of pensioners whose gratuities or pensions are never paid, but the premiums are never paid, yet you have one man who eats everything. But whom do we blame? I think the journalists did very well, but the thing is that the architect of this decay is one man, Paul Biya, because he has ruined this country. He has made this country to be a cesspool of corruption where people are irresponsible, there's no accountability. But now the question is, when this now has been laid bare, what is going to happen? All right. If we had a serious government, then I think there are options that this man will be forced to resign, and that if this government was a government that had a little bit of sympathy for Cameroonians, then they'll try to say, okay, 45 million CFA francs is too much for crisis, like the case of Adolphe Modiki of the SNH. And this SNH is a very corrupt entity. They are even unable, when you have this contract of gas going around, they don't care about it. There are companies operating in this country, they don't even pay the licenses, they don't have the due process, and yet he's there. Now, I don't have any problem if he's French or even he's from Sierra Leone, but the thing is that it is the problem of a filthy government that has ruined the people of Cameroon. Then you have this group of individuals who do not care. And it's a very good thing for Tribune de l'Est to have been able to expose in greater details all what is going on about this, our state corporation.
And so, Elie Smith, is good because drawing from what you say, it is just so hard to fathom the logic behind the allocation of such astronomical amounts of money in the name of salaries. But Kejan Henry, some say, and this we cannot confirm, it is hard to verify information, that some of the salaries are allocated by networks, mafia-style networks, that have tentacles stretching right into the presidency of the republic, where the appointments come from.
You are not far from the truth, but just for your discharge too, the board decides, which means the board can decide on what they want. We've heard stories of how they decided on the salary of Kameko, from the era of the Dutch to a demo right up to Ernest Dikum. And we hear that those who concoct the appointment, know that they have their share from.
So why were heaping vitriol, virtually heaping vitriol on the MDs? They actually get only a fraction of the final money. They get a fraction
of the final money, because if somebody like Ernest Dikum earns 13 million, don't be surprised at the end of the day, he has 3 million francs. Now you ask yourself a question, where is, or somebody like Nje of CDC, Franklin Nje, if he earns, like we saw on that thing, 30 million francs, don't be surprised at the end of the day, Nje has something like 5 million.
Who actually determines the salary?
Who determines the salary? The board determines the salaries, the emoluments, of its general manager, its CEO, and all other members, what they would probably have as advantages or benefits. You enumerated them from fuel, telephone, right up to entertainment.
I was looking.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you,
Come
Henry,
on.
but I was looking at some notes, some newspaper reports, Elie Smith, and we should not really focus the blame on some of the managing directors. Some of the board chairs actually get money for vehicles, 60 million CFA francs.
Yes.
For service vehicles.
For service vehicles.
What do they do at the corporations? They come to attend I don't know, annual meetings.
Quarterly meetings.
AGM meeting. But the thing is that I think that it is true. I think people like the director generals of the CDC, because look at it, the company is even not very well managed, or national security, social security fund. I think they are simply whipping boys. The reality is that we should go to the presidency where all this mafia is being cooked. Because it's very good to attack the director of CDC that is earning 30 million and we are seeing no results, right? Because he has that lump sum. I'm a liberal. I have no problem that he has a lot of money, but go and ask the ordinary CDC worker,
the
laborers, how he or she earns his or her living. Now, the thing is that if we had a serious country, Divine, I don't want to perorate here on it for so long. The one man, as I've always said, I'm apportioning the blame to him squarely, is because of Paul Biya. And saying that doesn't mean anything. This is a government that came and has erected, glamorized theft. If you could remember, there was one time, I think 1994, I don't know, there was one advanced free fraudster who came here and he was received with glamour, with Achidi when going there to receive his money. This is a government that encourages incompetence, encourages corruption, all what you can, the litany of everything which is not orthodox, which is negative. So I don't think we should have any problem. Well, they are sometimes incompetent, but the thing is that those managing directors of state corporations are just there because the system is corrupt. If we had a serious system, they wouldn't be there. They will be held accountable. So the man who is responsible is Paul Biya.
A majority of them, Divine, are the ones in prison because some of this money, take the case of Fonjinda. Fonjinda was running Chantier Naval, and at the time he was whisked to the monkey house, he left 40 billion. When Fonjinda left, 2 years after, Chantier Naval crumbled and could barely survive with 5 billion.
I had to depend on state subventions.
And had to depend on state subventions.
Next question. Should the government continue providing subsidies or subventions to some of these corporations?
No, these corporations should
actually generate revenue.
No,
They should not.
no. That is far from that. They should be able to generate revenues. If we think those who have been appointed because they are the square pegs in the square hole, it means that they should be able to raise, the image, the productivity of the company. They are the square peg. They are the specialists. Let them help these corporations produce money. These corporations should be sustainable rather than injecting oxygen every now and then like it's done with Cameco. I think it's even the worst of all these corporations that is receiving oxygen every month.
Let me give you some figures, Henry. Just to know that Cameroon counts 128 parastatals, 125. 28 are under direct government control. Now we have some figures. In 2015, CDC posted a deficit of minus 10 billion CFA francs. Cameco was minus 17 billion CFA francs. Chantier Naval minus 5 billion CFA francs. Elie Smith, where is all of the subvention going to?
One answer, mismanagement. And if I think that if the government thinks that those companies are not worthwhile, they should be privatized and handed over to competent people to manage. I understand the feeling of patriotism or nationalism that is sweeping Cameroon. Some people are against it. If Cameco, which is like a bottomless pit or bottomless sink, we should send it over to somebody. We should maybe sell it over to Air France or KLM or whatever, any company that can manage it. If the CDC is still a deficit, a serial deficit running machine, the general manager should be dismissed and privatized. Simple. I know that thing is kind of very scary. If the state is doing that simply because I think the state knows what they are doing. There's a racket around it. People don't care. And we are, as Chile said it in the Tribune de l'Est, we are under structural adjustment program. People now are called upon to tighten their belts, if I'm not wrong. Why should others be tightening up their belts?
Why some are loosening up?
Why some are loosening up? I think about those companies, if the state companies are not productive, they should either be closed or privatized.
And Divine, just rapidly, you talked about CDC. It's not like I have any problem with CDC. I was doing a research work and I discovered that they told me that they need 49 billion francs CFA to restructure CDC. Okay. They need 49 billion. CDC, like you see, is just a shadow of itself, to be very honest. And Elie talked about the excruciating poverty inside the camps.
Yeah, exactly.
Move into the camps and see how the people live.
People are paid 20,000 francs.
They are paid 20,000 francs.
Going to walk us through the camps very soon, and we are hoping that will be an exclusive report. Now, Finance Minister Alamin Ousmane yesterday announced a series of austerity measures that are going to be included in the 2018 state budget. Such include the reduction of money for vehicles, for fuel, for internet, for telephone, and what have you. Let's wait and see. But in France, and I thought this is how we get out of this first sticking point, Kejan Henry, the salaries for managing directors of state-owned corporations are limited.
Yes.
We don't surpass 450,000 euros per year.
Per year, which is rational, because if you ask yourself the question, what on hell would somebody like Adolphe Moudiki, if at all that salary is verified, somebody like I don't want to call Shandongo because he's like I read his own is 7 million francs plus other auxiliary benefits that might come, as a result of maybe the African Cup of Nations, because the budget will certainly increase. What on earth would they be doing with more than 5 billion francs a year if you do an arithmetic for one man when the country is sinking? They are reducing the salaries of GMs, but no, don't forget that these very guys who have been appointed have been working in the administration for some more than 10 years, even or 15, 20, 25. before being appointed now as GM, which means they must have at least gathered more than enough to live comfortably. In that respect, they will be working as public servants, you know, because public servants now are instead more of businessmen, and businessmen are now like catechist public servants. So I think it is a good thing if they, well, I hear CRTV is slashing. If it's slashing, well, I don't know. Generally, there will be some who will be against, and there will be some who will be for.
But the general manager earns 7 million CFA francs every month as salary. Rather, hopefully, his own salary too will be slashed if it's a general austerity measure.
But would that affect him?
Owned and taxpayer-funded Cameroon radio and television. It was shocking then, those images, to see some of these corporations that are, you know, frequently receive drips, financial drips from the government, but people still trek kilometers in Douala, in their own day, in Bamenda, in Bafoussam, in the urban centers to fetch for drinking water. Now let's take a break, and when we come back, Gina Leke will be here with what is trending today. And so it's taken a while, but finally we thought she was not going to make it. She's here. Gina, welcome.
Thank you.
What kept you back?
I was sorting out a few stuff, but I'm okay. I'm here now. That's the most important thing.
Right, you're here late too. So what's trending? I hear that 3 Cameroonians being sent to America.
Exactly.
By the President of the Republic?
Yes, a letter that was made public yesterday from the Prime Minister's office, signed by the Director of the Prime Minister's Cabinet, that's Paul Agogomo Mingo. And in the letter, he states that from instructions from the head of state, a delegation from Cameroon made up of former Minister Elvis Ngole and himself, Paul Gogomo, alongside the technical advisor at the Prime Minister's office, Fabien Nkod, will be heading to the United States. Precisely, to the letter was addressed to the Cameroon's permanent representative at the United Nations in New York. And the letter states that the objective of the visit is to explain or make certain clarifications with regards to the Anglophone struggle.
Everybody knows about the Anglophone struggle and its evolution since October 2016. I mean, what new thing are they going to explain?
Exactly. Many observers have been very quick to comment about the mission, saying that it's not going to bring anything new to the struggle, and that when you want to look at the people, the team, I mean, there are some of them that have never really acknowledged the depth of the Anglophone problem. I may want to quote somebody like the former minister Elvis Ngole, who has sometimes been criticized for being an Anglophone elite who has never really come out strong to defend his people. So many people think that it's like a waste of time. It's not going to bring anything new as far as the Anglophone crisis is concerned, because, well, the government has been making many moves, but most of them have been futile. You remember the government, in the wake of the Anglophone crisis, there was this consortium, the Anglophone consortium, that which is now outlawed, and the leaders are behind bars. you know. So many people are asking the question, you are going to the United States, you're going to meet with with your special representatives at the United Nations, and you have people behind bars. You have the leaders of the Anglophone struggle who are still behind bars. I want to mention here Barrister Agwobala. I want to mention Dr. Fontem Aniba, the activist Mancho BBC, alongside 25 other Anglophones, not to talk about a lot of them who are still on the run. So many people think that if the government is really serious about solving this issue, it should start by releasing all those that are incarcerated.
And exactly, I think that's what the critics are saying, that the solution doesn't lie in the United States. The solution is here in Cameroon.
Yes, the solution is here in Cameroon. So there are some people who are thinking that is the government trying to say that this problem is now above, that they can no longer handle it, and they are going to the United States to look for a solution. But I think that one of the main reasons why the team is heading to the United States, it comes on the heels of a hearing at the U.S. Senate that was on the 25th of July. And Divine, you may want to understand that when the U.S. Senate opens its doors, I mean, to hear about the Anglophone crisis, it's not a very good sign, because it could be the beginning of sanctions, from what I understand, because they are investigating human rights violation. It's like Cameroon is being, yes, it's being attacked from all fronts. Yes, not just for you know, understand the report from Amnesty International a few days ago actually accused the Cameroon military of torturing some civilians that are accused to be Boko Haram members on the sidelines of the fight against the terrorist sect. So, but they want to also investigate what is happening in the Anglophone, in the two English-speaking regions of the country. And I was just saying that it's true the government has been making some moves, but the results are still not very much felt, because if you go to the English-speaking parts of the country, if you go to Boya, if you go to Kumba, if you go to Manfe, Bamenda, the ghost towns are still very operational every Mondays. And there are a lot of people who are very worried, because they are not even certain if schools are going to resume in September. So because most people are really angry about the fact that these leaders are still behind bars, and they think that if the government wants to take serious steps, it should start by releasing these people who were at the forefront of the discussions when the crisis broke out.
Thanks very much for coming.
Yeah.
I will let you go now and catch your breath, so that the tough talkers should join us to discuss your trending.
Okay, it was my pleasure.
Thanks a lot, Gina.
You're welcome.
Have a great day, and
You too.
we'll see you in the jiffy. To stretch our trending topic just for this other edition. It is unusual, but well, the tough talkers think that the issue at stake is just so pertinent that we cannot, you know, rush over it. So I'll begin with you, Henry. The mission, according to Gina, is being led by Paul Gogomo, who is Director of Cabinet at the Prime Minister's office, and the same person who flopped when he headed a delegation to go negotiate with the hardliners in Bamenda last year.
Divine, what a coincidence. The government is sending 3 professors, Professor Paul Gogomo Mingo, Professor Elvis Ngole, Professor Cote Fabien. 3 professors, that is what Cameroonians should first of all understand. And the head of the delegation is Professor Paul Gogomo Mingo, who could not come to a consensus when they were negotiating with those Anglophone teachers as a whole, because initially the teachers and then the lawyers and so on. But now he's heading the delegation, which flopped, and you and I know what happened. Because at the end of the day, when talks failed, Professor Paul Gogomo Mingo went back with the resolutions to Yaoundé, and those resolutions were read on CRTV. And I remember Tewi Lambif read the resolutions on CRTV, and he signed Paul Gogomu Mingo, done in Yaoundé. Now, we had a talk in Bamenda.
The resolutions are concocted in Yaoundé.
So you cannot tell me that the Kyoto Protocol or whichever protocol takes place in the Addis Ababa Protocol or the Kigali Protocol, then you hear it was signed in Yaoundé.
Elie Smith, you have a problem in your home and you're taking it to Nigeria, to America in this case?
No, it's not as though it is there. It's a strategy. They have discovered now that contrary to all the lies being peddled around by the fake state-owned media called CRTV and their appendages in the print media, that there is no Anglophone problem, there is one. And that contrary again to, and saying it doesn't mean in any way that one is trying to, it's just being objective. At the U.S. Senate on the 25th of July, there was a hearing on the human rights violations in West Cameroon. And there is also an investigation going on the violation carried out by the Cameroonian elite force, the Cameroonian army, the far north of Cameroon.
According to Amnesty International.
According to Amnesty International. And saying that, you know, you have some people who do not want people to speak the truth and people start running amok and saying things. If the government of Cameroon have decided to send those 3 men to the United States, it's simply because there is a problem.
And they've acknowledged, the government has actually acknowledged.
The government has actually acknowledged that. You know, you don't necessarily need to tell the government to come and say, okay, yes, we know there's a problem. The step they have taken is simply because they want to go to the United States and to at the UN, because seemingly the Anglophone Cameroonians, of the West Cameroonians, are getting some support. There is a kind of traction that is taking place, which means they want to kind of go and stop it. But I don't know how to be able to stop it, because the thing is, as Hendrik rightly said, this is a man who was unable to solve a problem. What credibility does he have? And once again, I think there's a problem of communication and tactics on the part of the Cameroonian government. If I were them, I will look for the pro-Anglophone movement that are here and take them around to the country to show that this is what we are doing, and they should speak.
That's where a problem begins to emerge. The Americans would want to see in that delegation some of the leaders, the Anglophone activists. But they are all absent.
But they are all absent because they are in jail. And the people are looking up to those who are in jail and no other person. Yes, will Professor Ngole and Mingo and Scott meet somebody like Bob Gahamoni, the Boo Herberts, and the rest who are out there in the United States? Will they be able to meet those activists or those separatists in the UN? Or they will just talk to the UN? What you and I don't know, I think we'll know that subsequently. But to tell them that we are no longer, or we are struggling to solve the problem, because I know that they will tell them at the end of the day that this is the move we have made. And so I think it is time we negotiate, etc. But what a coincidence, their movement or their visit is taking place at a time Dr. Simon Munzu is equally in the United States to discuss this issue. And you and I know very well that they will hold a meeting in Atlanta, I think on the 15th of August, still on this issue. So if the issue has gone very viral and the government now is sending emissaries to Europe and to the UN, it means that they have recognized that there is this problem.
Okay, and you're giving the impression that I thought I held alone. The impression is that, Elie Smith, there's been a lot of agitation on the part of Anglophones in America. They've been hitting hard on foreign diplomatic representation, especially the French embassy in that part of the world. I mean, there's a meeting coming up on the 22nd of August by the Kakov and several others, more risk and so on. Could that be the reason why this delegation is heading to the U.S.?
Yes, I think they're also heading simply because, you know, there is something people who used to say commonly that the laws or decisions are not taken on the street. Because when these Anglophone activists were manifesting or demonstrating on the streets of London, Washington, D.C., or in the Netherlands, people tend to have ignored it. But they have now discovered that these people have also started touching people, the powers that be in those Western countries. The Anglophones, the one thing that the Cameroonian government, which I think they are incompetent, primitive, is simply that they have forgotten that you have a large pool of Anglophone in the United States and the United Kingdoms who are British or American citizens. And there in the United States, the midterm elections are hovering. It is not a hand-picked Senate or hand-picked Congress. Congressmen and women and senators in the United States are conscious. They want to take into consideration what the people within their constituencies are craving for. And if you have a number of people in your constituency or in your Congress constituency that are talking about the gross human rights violation in Cameroon, at least you have to pay an ear. That's the reason why a hearing took place at the Congress, which is a first step toward sanctions. They can be a kind of general sanctions. They can be a kind of targeted sanctions like the case they did in the DRC.
All right.
That is it. Formally, the thing with Cameroon is that Cameroon, contrary to the pride of Cameroonians, is not a very strategic country.
Okay.
But now that you have a number of Anglophones who are really militating in the United States, I think that's the reason why the government has decided to go to the UN and then also meet some, I think they'll also go to the State Department and a number of places in the United States to try to present the government's point of view.
Thanks very much, Elie. So we'll probably come back on this issue in subsequent editions of Tough Talk. Meantime, the Kafu Policy Institute, a think tank lodged at the Foretia Foundation based in Yaoundé, has concluded following a nationwide survey, governance survey, that Cameroon is headed in the wrong direction and that the current government has run out of options to rescue the situation. Findings of the survey, Henry, in which 669 Cameroonians aged from 20 and above, indicates that where the country has derailed. Does it bother you that this report, published on the 27th of July, has not been buzzing the media, that local news outlets are not talking about it?
It is true. It puzzles me that local media are not talking about it. But even if they are not talking about it, it still has a connotation.
Of course, Canal English has
been talking about it, but it has a connotation with, in fact, they talk about the problem generally, but the foundation, which the foundation has done its findings, its research, and concluded that 90.2% or 90.72% of Cameroonians, be they Anglophones or English-speaking Cameroonians or Cameroons of West.
In fact, respondents in the survey were picked from all 10 regions.
From all 10 regions, which means 90% think Cameroon is on the wrong track. That is the first thing about that report that we should know. And then if you want to put in our sector by sector or region by region, let us take West Cameroon or the Southern Cameroons, as they will call it, as an entity. More than 60 or 92% and 96% are for federalism, which means almost all.
You're specifically looking at former West Cameroon. Okay, but the general percentage is over 60%. Who think that a return to a federal system of government, Elie Smith, will be the solution at this juncture in Cameroon's political evolution?
Personally, I'm not a federalist. But now when you have a kind of survey like that, that comes just to support what we know is correct, then it's something good. And the other thing on your question that you asked to Kajan, that why did the media not really take on it? One, it might be a kind of disinterest because you have a kind of fright within the majority French-speaking media that, okay, these guys want to go away, hence they want just to ignore it. The other thing is that...
And there's the press money. The money
yes,
for
great.
Assistance to the newspapers.
Good. The other thing is that I want to think that the Forestia something doesn't have a very good communication department.
They do.
If they have a good communication department, they should understand that the press in this country is so poor, which means that while we do not encourage it, they should keep aside some kind of allocation to the press in order to encourage them to publish it. So it is a word to them. But now on this problem of federalism, I want to say the information they have given about the country is going toward the wrong direction, to me it's no news. Anybody knows that this country is going on the wrong direction since 1982.
Yeah, Elie, I like it when you say to you, it's no news, but the revelations contained in the survey are poignant enough to raise eyebrows in certain quarters. Does this government care?
This government doesn't
Cannot
care.
care.
They cannot care until they have the fire burning them. They don't care. The only good thing with this thing is that you have this culture of professors, doctors, or whatever who think that they always need something which is, in code, scientific. Now they have a scientific proof that federalism is not just a token or something being hyped by a group of supremacist Anglophones. It is something which is general, which now scientific. But do this government care? Honestly speaking, they don't care. If they had cared, long time ago, they would have released all the Anglophones that they have kidnapped in West Cameroon, taken to Yaoundé, kept them there. They would have even, at least if they had some iota of sympathy, a man who is sick like Paul Aya, they would have at least released him to go and go and receive proper medical attention.
All right,
Honestly
Elie,
speaking, they
just
don't
to,
care.
Just to remind our viewers that we're actually supposed to get in touch at this point in time exactly with Saikila Melanie. He's economic policy analyst at the Nkafu Policy Institute. Unfortunately, we cannot reach him by phone. But Keja Henry Atembe, do you see the government acting on these alerts? Some say, well, critics of the survey say it's provocative to the government at this point in time. If you consider the Amnesty International report,
I like that.
the U.S. Senate deliberations, and
I suppose the Nkafu Foundation has forwarded its findings, its research findings to the government, which I suppose is equally studying to hit back. You know,
not to act on, but to hit back.
To hit back, because just like you asked the question whether why the thing went, you know, solo without the media talking about it. Now that the media is talking about it, the report is clear, and I think the government is following. They are watching us now, and they'll be able to go study the survey
said,
to
this
understand
is
what is
where we're
behind
going
it.
to begin to wrap this up, Henry. Elie said a while ago that, I mean, most of the findings from the survey constitute what you may want to say deja vu.
Yes, they are deja vu.
Would it make a difference at this point in time?
It doesn't make a difference all that much. Because if we go by the delegation that left, you know, the Southern Cameroons, which they call their brothers from the Southern Cameroons, to meet their brothers in East Cameroon, in Fumban, then it is already a deja vu. But then if this is just to remind the government of Cameroon or the powers that be that there is a group of people who are not happy with the management style or the political structure of the country.
In a previous report, the same institute, the Nkafu Policy Institute, suggested that a transitional government would be the only way out for Cameroon at this point in time. In a recent letter, and we move out of the Nkafu Policy Institute, Kawala, the president of the Cameroon People's Party, in a letter to President Paul Biya, says a transitional government is a solution. Elie?
I stand by saying no, it's not a solution, because the government will tell you that we are not in crisis. No, because if you want to make a transitional government, I think we said it here once, we have the main political parties and most actors on the field should be in accord to that. But I think that as things stand, there is no need for any kind of transitional government, because the government will not accept it, and others as well will not accept it.
Thanks a lot, gentlemen, for coming.
Thanks very much.
We'll be here again on Thursday. And all our apologies to our viewers. We know you are in your thousands, probably tens and hundreds of thousands who missed us last Thursday, but the technical hitches have been resolved. We are struggling to always move forward together with you. If you have any comments or suggestions, just send them to us at enterike@gmail.com, or if you have the contacts for Elie and Keja Henry, shoot them your reactions, and we'll be able to tell our viewers what some of you think on the next edition of the show. Thanks very much for giving us your precious time this morning. Stay tuned, because lots and lots more interesting things queued up for you on Canal English. See you very soon.